this interest in leadership, but leadership as engaging others in change that is both strategic and moral, I think comes out. I mean, that was Moses. Neither a Jew nor an Egyptian, both, an insider, outsider, who sort of had to, of the oppressed but raised in the house of the oppressor, had to go off to the desert to kind of get it together because it was so challenging, and then becomes this agent of change and of liberation. And the attraction of organizing, I wouldn't say I had this all figured out at the time. The first attraction was that it was about walking the walk, that it was not about sitting in an office somewhere or having a bunch of ideological discussions. It was about engaging directly with people who were in fact engaged in fighting to change their lives and their world around them. So I was never much drawn to the work of charity. I was never big on volunteerism and soup kitchens and all that. It's very nice stuff, but I was much more attracted to what I think of as works of justice, of working with people who are themselves struggling to change their circumstances, which isn't, and I guess this is the second thing, it's inherently not simply an individual job. In other words, because changing your circumstances means not only I get a better deal, but it means doing something about the conditions that created the problems that I have to struggle with. And so it was one about engaging people, working with people, but it was also working with people who were together working, trying to change the world around them. That was very exciting. And in the civil rights movement, I had the experience then of on the one hand being able to translate my values into action, doing it with people I admired, and seeing it work. I mean, actually, we actually broke down barriers to voting, barriers that African Americans face for voting in counties like Amet County, where nobody had been registered basically since Reconstruction. And did that by not just by organizing local communities, but by leveraging that into power on the federal government and around the country to get the necessary kind of power that we needed to break through that stuff. That was very, very exciting. I mean, because, and so when it came time to go back to school here, because I still had a year to go here at Harvard, I wrote him a letter saying, how can I come back and study history when we're busy making history? Pretty arrogant to say. It was also true. It was also kind of how I felt about it. The idea of school, when the world was being transformed and the war was going on, the Vietnam, everybody had to figure out what they were going to do about the draft. You couldn't sort of postpone that. So you're sort of forced to make some decisions about what really mattered to you. And so the idea of coming back to finish a year in college when we were like making it happen, why do that? And all the time, it was learning. Because, we were always struggling with new challenges. Something about crossing the cultural boundaries was very energizing to me. It always has been. And this whole thing of the interrelationship between discovering your own capacity for development as engaged with others in the same work. And it's not like a giving to somebody else. It's like creating a kind of interdependent circumstance in which there's learning all the way around and growth. And so I got hooked on that. And after 2 years in the South, then, when I thought about coming back to school here, I met Cesar Chavez, who had just started the grape strike in California, 30 miles from where I grew up, and discovered that to be a continuation of the same stuff I was involved in the South. And so it was an opportunity to continue the same kind of work, which I then did for the next 16 years.